With Doom: The Dark Ages right around the corner, I, Suggestive Gaming, thought now would be a great time to go over the timeline as it stands so far. Returning viewers might recall that I already covered the story of 2016's reboot of the franchise back before Doom Eternal was released. Well, with that game's story, developer id Software brought the entire 30-plus year span of Doom titles into the fold. This time around, I'll cover every mainline title, officially recognized expansion, and even a couple mobile RPGs. With those expansions, I'll be including original Doom designer John Romero's unofficial 5th episode, SIGIL, as well as its sequel, in this timeline. While their canonicity is cloudy, and both were created without id's involvement, they're included in the official Doom 1 and 2 release, albeit as unofficial campaigns. I'm mostly including them for completion's sake, and honestly, just for fun, so feel free to ignore that section of the video if you're a purist. Another quick note before we dive in, while the newer games, Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal, flesh out a lot of backstory for the series, I'll be going through it slightly out of order to keep a natural distinction between the original series and the modern one. We'll cover the original games and their expansions first, and then jump into the new continuity and lore expansions afterward. With all that said, there are a few things I won't be covering. Namely the iOS game Doom Resurrection, which has essentially become lost media. Luckily, its story was essentially retold in an expansion for Doom 3 called The Lost Mission, released alongside that game's BFG remake, which will be included in this video. I also won't be covering either live-action film adaptation, including 2005's Doom, as well as 2019's Doom Annihilation, as they're completely disconnected from the games, and there are even some limits I'll go to. There was also a mobile game called Mighty Doom, which didn't really have a story, so there's nothing to really go over there. Additionally, any novels or role-playing games will be left out of this video, as I'm focusing on the universe of the games, not their adaptations. Also, yes, I know that John Romero and Tom Hall have said that the Doom franchise is connected to both the Wolfenstein and Commander Keen series, specifically with Doom's protagonist being the grandson of Wolfenstein's. There's also been rumors swarming that perhaps id Software's other franchise, Quake, will be brought into the fold. Besides mentioning these crossovers, there's not much more I can say. Now, I won't go over the storylines of those franchises in this video, obviously, but if you want to see them covered in their own videos, please let me know in the comments. Now, without further ado, this is what you need to know about the Doom timeline. Our story begins in the distant future, the year 2022, on the planet of Mars, where the Union Aerospace Corporation, or UAC from here on forth, has set up their base of operations. The UAC, a multiplanetary conglomerate, has facilities set up on the planet, as well as its 2 moons, Phobos and Deimos, to conduct secret military research projects. Among the topics of this research is interdimensional space travel, with scientists opening teleportation gateways between the 2 moons. As the experiments continue, however, the gateways grow unstable. Volunteers entering the gateways either completely vanish or return violently insane before spontaneously combusting. Despite these setbacks, the UAC maintains that they have everything under control. That is, until their base on Mars receives a garbled distress call from the Phobos station, requesting immediate military support, frantically stating that something evil is coming out of the gateways. Shortly after this distress call, the Deimos moon completely disappears from orbit, leaving no trace behind. Among those sent to support Phobos is a Marine from Earth. This Marine, as it turns out, was transferred to Mars after assaulting his superior officer for ordering an attack on civilians. What a guy. While the Marine is sent in with a troop of fellow soldiers, as he secures the perimeter of the facility, his squad mates are slaughtered, leaving him the sole remaining survivor and the only line of defense against whatever horrors have been unleashed from the other side of the gateway. When the Marine enters the Phobos facility, he walks directly into a living nightmare. The gateways have opened a portal to hell itself, and demons have flooded through into the base. Starting with only a pistol, the Marine is forced to fight his way through the invading forces of Hell, as well as the demonically possessed corpses of his fallen fellow soldiers. Building up his arsenal and slaughtering his opposition, the Marine is eventually able to reach the portal gateway on Phobos. There, he's confronted by two massive Barons of Hell, Minotaur-like heavies that hurl green fire. After defeating them, the gateway opens and the Marine enters the portal. Unfortunately, he's completely unprepared for what he finds on the other side: an ambush by the forces of Hell. Before the Marine can even realize where he is, a horde of demons quickly overwhelms him with an attack, and he is swiftly knocked unconscious. When the Marine awakens, he finds himself in the twisted remains of the missing moon of Deimos. Hell's influence has somehow consumed the moon's base entirely, transforming its halls with fleshy growths and satanic symbols. Fighting through stronger forces of Hell, with the help of strong UAC-developed weapons he discovers along the way, the Marine eventually climbs the Tower of Babel, fighting its massive guardian, the Cyberdemon, at the top. This massive, half-monster, half-machine proves to be a formidable foe for the Marine, as the two engage in a one-on-one battle. However, much like every other obstacle in his way thus far, the Marine is able to blast through the Cyberdemon to uncover the shocking truth behind Deimos' disappearance. As it turns out, Hell didn't just influence the moon of Deimos, it captured it completely. The Marine looks over the edge of the tower to witness that Deimos is now floating above Hell itself. With no other choice, the Marine rappels down to the surface, determined to be the first soul to escape from Hell. Driven by his rage and a duty to humanity, the Marine fights through the hellish temples and caverns to search for the source of the invasion. Along the way, he recovers the most powerful weapon he has yet to uncover on his journey, the BFG 9000, a massive energy cannon that shoots a ball of plasma from its barrel. Eventually, the Marine reaches Hell's capital city, Diz, where he encounters his final enemy, the Spider Demon, or Spider Mastermind. While the Mastermind's heavy artillery pose a serious threat to the Marine, the Spider Demon quickly falls to the ridiculous power of the BFG 9000. After a fierce battle, the Marine lands a fatal shot, obliterating the Spider Mastermind in a thunderous explosion of flesh and metal. Finally, the Marine's battle is over. Hell's invasion has been stopped at its source. A portal then opens before the Marine, and when he steps through, he finds himself back on the planet Earth. While he's initially relieved to be home, the Marine quickly realizes that something is very, very wrong. The sky is tinted with a hellish orange, and a nearby building is left in ruin. Most horribly, most disgustingly, and most utterly tragic, the Marine then witnesses a sight worse than anything that could have been conjured up in the depths of Hell. Directly in front of him is the severed head of his pet rabbit, Daisy, impaled on a pike. This twisted display was no random act, it was a message. While the Marine was battling evil in Hell, the Spider Mastermind's demons found another way to attack him, by invading Earth before he could return. His beloved Daisy was only one of the countless innocent lives lost, quickly turning the Marine's grief into fury as he thrusts himself back into the battle, this time to protect his own home and avenge his fallen pet. Armed with whatever he can salvage, the Marine tears through the ruined city streets, mowing down the hordes of invading demonic forces. While he puts up a valiant effort, all while carrying his beloved Daisy's head as a morbid reminder, Hell's forces have already overrun most of Earth's cities. Unfortunately for the Marine, he's left to face Hell on Earth. At this point, the Marine realizes that he hasn't actually returned to Earth. While the invasion of Hell's forces is very much real, his futile attempts to thwart them were actually taking place in another location within Hell. The final teleporter the Marine entered was previously glitched by the demon Baphomet. using a hidden sigil imbued with eldritch power. This took the Marine to a Stygian pocket of evil. Realizing that he once again must find a way back to Earth, the Marine continues his rampage through Hell's most formidable offenses. Over countless battles, he slaughters the Guardians of Baphomet before confronting the Dark Lord himself in a final showdown. In a climactic battle, the Marine defeats all Baphomet throws at him, bringing the demon's hold on him to an end. With Baphomet's sigil power broken, the Marine learns that Baphomet was only doing the bidding of Satan himself. He steps through one last portal and returns to Earth, ready to finally become its savior. That is, until he is dragged back to Hell once again, this time by Satan, in the Dark Lord of Hell's final-ditch effort to stop the Marine from reaching Earth. Casting the Marine into the darker depths of Hell, Satan throws everything he has left at the Marine. Reassembling his arsenal to blast his way through his final obstacle, the Marine exposes the Dark Lord's error in thinking he could be stopped. With all of Hell's forces out of his way, the Marine is finally able to return to Earth, where Satan's final plan awaits: the full-scale demonic invasion of his home planet, hoping the Marine will be wiped out amidst the chaos. When the Marine finally steps foot back on his home planet, he discovers that most of Earth's major cities have already been overrun by the forces of Hell. To save what's left of the human race, the remaining world leaders decide to build massive ships to carry as many survivors as possible away from the ruined world. This plan is foiled before it can begin, however, as Earth's only spaceport is soon overtaken by demons. Somehow, they've erected a massive wall of flames, preventing any ships from going in or out of the spaceport. The Marine, along with a few of his remaining fellow soldiers, are sent in to disable the barrier and give the human race a fighting chance for survival. Much like his first mission, the Marine's comrades are quickly slaughtered, leaving him the sole hope to free the spaceport. With his signature brains and brawn, the Marine works his way through the spaceport, lowering the demonic influence enough to allow the survivors to escape in their spacecraft. Left alone as the sole human on Earth, the Marine prepares to accept his grim, lonesome fate. However, he soon receives a transmission from the survivors in space, who have tracked the source of the demonic invasion to a nearby city. Armed with the vengeance for his lost homeworld, the Marine fights through the city, now left twisted with hellish influence. Eventually, he finds another portal, returning to Hell, the dimension he had so recently fought tirelessly to escape. This time, however, he's there on his own terms. The Marine ventures into the depths, eventually discovering the source of the Earth invasion, an enormous, grotesque demon known as the Icon of Sin. Unlike his previous foes, the Icon of Sin isn't just a monster. It's fused into the architecture of Hell itself. A colossal demonic face set into a flesh and metal wall, the Icon commands the invasion through dark psychic power. From a gaping, exposed brain on its forehead, it spawns endless waves of demons, vomiting them through dimensional cracks onto Earth. As his final battle with the Icon of Sin begins, the creature roars out in a demonic voice, and the hole in its head exposing its brain appears to be hiding something that's about to make you his bitch. Setting aim with his rocket launcher, the Marine fires at the Icon of Sin's brain over and over, fighting off continuously spawning reinforcements. Eventually, the Marine is able to destroy the Icon of Sin and the dimensional gateway along with it. With Hell's connection to Earth finally severed, the invasion comes to an end, leaving the remaining demons on Earth cut off from reinforcements. Though exhausted, the Marine knows that his work is far from done. Now, he's got pockets of demons to clean up, and an entire planet to rebuild. The Marine's cleanup operation begins at a UAC base on Earth. Fighting through the base and out into the surrounding mountains, the Marine uses his signature rage to eventually reach a river of blood and lava. In the Tomb of Malevolence, the Marine slaughters a horde of strong demonic forces, including a cyberdemon, finishing his first mission in clearing out the planet from Hell's army. As the Marine wipes out the major demonic forces, Earth begins to rebuild, and the UAC, now refounded due to its old stockholders being, well, dead, turns its attention to scattered experiments and containment facilities still left untouched. These hidden bunkers, black sites, and test chambers, each with their own twisted secrets, have since fallen under Hell's corruption. To prevent another invasion, the Marine is sent out alone once again, tasked with clearing these locations one by one. Each facility presents its own unique horrors and twisted challenges, proving to be the most difficult missions the Marine has faced yet. As the Marine mows down Hell's remnants, it becomes clear. The war may be over, but the demon's overwhelming resistance is far from done. Despite the disaster on Earth, the UAC refuses to learn its lesson, establishing a new teleportation research operation on one of Jupiter's moons. With promises of tighter security and military protection, the UAC claims that this time, things will be different. Unfortunately, the demons have learned their own lessons. As scientists begin their new teleportation experiments, with Marines swiftly killing any demons that slip through the gateways, a massive, demonic ship suddenly descends from the stars. It opens fire on the facility, annihilating everything in its path and flooding the outpost with hellspawn. The station troops attempt to mount a defense, but are quickly overwhelmed and slaughtered. Well, all except for one. Once again, the last line of defense, the Marine fights through the overrun moon base, carving a path of destruction while tracking the source of the new invasion. Eventually, the Marine pushes into the heart of the invasion, the central gateway chamber where the UAC had been running its teleportation experiments. Here, he discovers the creature responsible for the massacre at the base, a horrifying, icon of sin-like demon known as the Demon Spitter. In a grueling battle, the Marine eventually destroys the Demon Spitter, closing the portal. While the skies turn from a hellish orange back to blue, the Marine hears a rumble in the distance. A blue light then begins to glow within the skull of the Demon Spitter, hinting that perhaps in Hell, no one's ever really gone. Still hoping to prevent any other potential demonic invasion, the UAC develops the Quantum Accelerator, a device designed to shut down Hell's portals before they can fully form. While the initial testing of these devices goes well, successfully closing portal gateways while they were opening, this work soon draws the attention of the demonic forces on the other side of the portals. Suddenly, a gateway opens in the heart of the facility itself, and a mass of demons begin to pour out. Luckily, the scientists are able to use the quantum accelerator to quickly close this portal, and the Marines stationed on base are able to quickly stop the attack. Finally, the UAC has developed a solution to the problem they initially created. Or, that would be the case if the attack from Hell wasn't simply a recon mission. The next day, 7 gateways to Hell open simultaneously, and over the next hour, a war rages on the base. While the Marines are able to fight off Hell's forces long enough for the UAC to use the quantum accelerators to close 6 of the gates, they are ultimately completely overwhelmed. No survivors are left on the UAC base, and one gateway remains open, guarded by another icon of sin-like demon called the Gatekeeper. The government quickly orders all Marine forces to the base, and coincidentally, the one who happens to be closest is the very same who single-handedly stopped every demonic invasion thus far. Arriving first, the Marine enters the complex alone, hoping to stop the Gatekeeper's legion before their numbers grow too strong for himself or any amount of Earth's reinforcements. Fighting through the twisted remains of the jungle base, the Marine faces some old friends, including the Cyberdemon once again. Once face to massive face with the Gatekeeper, the Marine engages in another brain-blasting final battle. Once defeated, the Gatekeeper's tattered corpse falls, and all of the remaining demons vanish as the 7th and final gate snaps shut. Finally, the Plutonia invasion is over. Standing triumphant once again, the Marine awaits his fellow soldiers, facing an Earth that's finally free of demonic invasion. Or at least it is, until the UAC, in all of their hubris, decides to conduct another hellish experiment. Learning of a remote region of hell that's said to be overflowing in natural, or rather unnatural, resources while also being almost entirely devoid of demonic presence, the UAC immediately set up a base to create a portal to this new Eden. However, it quickly becomes apparent that the evils within this area of hell aren't gone. They're just dormant. The ones beneath, a race called the Visago, have now awakened. With them comes a familiar tide of destruction. The UAC, forever unwilling to admit defeat, launch a desperate operation to reclaim their investment. They send in their favorite Marine to recover what remains of the base and secure the data buried inside. However, as he fights through the demonic forces, it becomes clear that he was never meant to succeed. The mission was a trap, and the Marine was the bait. Ambushed, the Marine is captured, caged, and left to rot. Clawing his way back, fighting tooth, nail, and chainsaw, he eventually uncovers the truth. The UAC wasn't just mining for resources. They were also hiding their own developments in Hell's new Eden, including experiments with some strange moral implications. Luckily, the Marine is able to find some nuclear warheads kept by the UAC within New Eden. He scrambles to prime the nuclear weapons before escaping through the portal back to the base on Earth. Detonating the nukes from the other side, he blasts New Eden into a molten sea of glass, closing the portal gateway in the explosion's wake. When the dust settles and the air clears, one truth remains. The Marine's legacy can wait. He ain't finished yet. In the years that follow, Earth continues to rebuild, and as the years pass, the horrors of Hell's invasion fade into scarred memories. The UAC somehow continues to exist, although their focus shifts to ensuring the demonic threat can never return. Part of this effort includes quarantining the research facilities on Mars and its moons, and for years, they remain abandoned and forgotten. That is, until a faint signal is picked up from the UAC facility on Mars. UAC scientists determine that the source of the signal is the sole remaining demonic entity there. Unfortunately, it appears that this entity has the ability to resurrect its fellow demons, immediately reigniting the fear and panic of another full-scale invasion. Knowing that they have no other options, Earth's military return to their tried and true method of dealing with demonic threats, calling upon the sole Marine who has fought them and lived to tell the tale. Stepping back into the long-abandoned facility where the signal originated, the Marine finds humanity's worst fear come true. The halls are once again crawling with the revived forces of Hell. The Marine is then forced to fight once again, retracing his steps from long ago, while finding new terrors lurking. As the Marine delves deeper, he uncovers the mastermind of the demon's resurrection, a creature known as the Mother of all Demons, often simply called the Mother Demon. The Mother Demon's influence has revived even some of Hell's strongest, and the Marine is brought face to face with cyber demons yet again. Throughout his campaign, the Marine collects 3 mystical artifacts called the Demon Keys, relics that hold the power to disrupt the Mother Demon's plans and stop the invasion at its core. Through a gauntlet of brutal trials, the Marine is taken back through Hell itself. There, he is able to disable various demon teleporters using the Demon Keys, clearing the battlefield for his final confrontation with the Mother of all Demons. When the Mother Demon finally reveals herself, the Marine is forced to fight her head-on. Using all of the weapons he's found on his latest journey, including the Unmaker laser, the Marine unleashes his own hell on the Mother Demon, finally killing her. While another invasion from hell is stopped and the threat is over, the Marine knows that this safety is fleeting. The cycle will repeat itself soon enough. Deciding to sacrifice himself, the Marine stays in hell, closing the portals from inside. Vowing that no demon will ever rise again, the Marine takes up his arms and prepares his eternal assault. Unfortunately, the forces of hell eventually use the Marine's loyalty against him. While he rampages through the abyss for years, executing his grim mission to tear up hell itself, another threat stirs in the shadows. As it turns out, the Mother Demon wasn't the only being of her kind. In fact, she had a sister, known as the Resurrector, and she's out for vengeance. Intent on hurting what the Marine cares about in exchange for what he did to her sister, the Resurrector springs a trap, dragging the Marine out of hell and to the planet Sedna. Hoping to kill the thorn in Hell's side once and for all, the Resurrector transports the Marine to a UAC base, sending a torrent of demonic forces to attack him once more. The Marine, of course, literally refuses to die. He quickly resumes the familiar routine of ripping and tearing through the demons infesting the UAC facility. While he's only just returned home, the Marine quickly searches for a way back to Hell to stop yet another invasion and continue his mission. He soon finds this in the form of a portal within the base, which he enters to find himself within a new layer of Hell. Fighting through the Resurrector's domain, the Marine collects 3 more demon keys, this time using them to unlock his final path to the realm's matriarch. Upon meeting the Resurrector, a familiar battle quickly ensues. Much like her sister, the Mother Demon, the Resurrector falls at the hands of the Marine, bringing an end to her quest for vengeance, as well as the latest demonic invasion. Left to contemplate the journey ahead, the Marine stares into the abyss of Hell, looking down a path of perpetual torment, a path through doom. His fight will go on forever, until the armies of Hell are nothing but ash. With the Resurrector defeated, the Marine saga comes to a close, and over time, transitions into myth. The Marine's path through doom is just beginning, and its next steps will lead him to a grand, distant world, as well as a new identity. At some point during his one-man war in Hell, the Marine stumbles upon a different kind of portal. Rather than hurling him into yet another layer of the abyss or back to his own world, this one leads him to an entirely new realm, a world called Argent Denur. This planet, once a majestic medieval world of warriors and kings, was born from chaos. When a cosmic world spear tore through the land, it opened a great wound in reality itself, from which emerged the elemental wraiths, ancient, godlike beings who brought life and magic to the world. From their wraith call came the Argenta, a hardened people who tamed the behemoths of old and forged a kingdom through blood and steel. Their mightiest warriors became the Night Sentinels, sworn defenders of their realm. Though the Argenta had long worshipped the Wraiths, their society was forever changed when divine beings known as the Maykrs arrived from beyond. Led by the Khan Maker, they offered a new covenant. In exchange for faith, the Argenta could earn eternal peace in their heavenly realm, called Urdok. For a time, this union brought prosperity. The Argenta mastered both magic and machinery under the guidance of their newfound gods. During this golden age, a being known as the Father reigns as a higher dimensional entity, said to have created the Maykrs themselves, along with much of the known universe. However, when the Father goes to war with the Dark Lord of Hell, both of their physical forms are destroyed. Their life essences are removed and sealed away in special life spheres. The Father's sphere is entrusted to a loyal Maykr named Samr, who houses it in a sacred temple in Urdok known as the Luminarium. Despite their leader's death, demons begin invading Argent D'Nur, threatening to overrun the population. At the heart of the defense stands the Order of the Night Sentinels, and while they're initially resistant to outsiders, the Sentinels quickly take notice of a stranger who enters their world through one of the Hell portals and proceeds to carve a trail of demon corpses behind him. The Marine, who stumbles into this realm through that portal, wastes no time proving his worth. Despite being a foreigner to their world, the Sentinels recognize his unwavering hatred for Hell's forces, and more importantly, his unparalleled ability to destroy them. After throwing him into a coliseum to prove his potential, the Sentinels offer him a place among their ranks. And while the Marine refuses their ceremonies and sacred rites, he accepts their cause, fighting alongside them as a weapon of war. Though many among the Sentinels scoff at the outsider, their skepticism withers in the face of his relentless power. Slowly, he earns their respect, not with his extremely scarce words, but instead by never falling. Through endurance, rage, and sheer will, he becomes one of them. Over time, word of the Marine's destruction spreads through the realm, earning him a title that would echo across time and space: the Doomslayer. The Slayer soon becomes legend. His fury is unmatched, his kill count immeasurable, and his presence alone strikes fear into the hearts of Hell's legions. Samr Maykr, also called the Seraphim, takes to overseeing the Doomslayer, granting him unnatural strength and speed using the Divinity Machine, against the Khan Maker's wishes. Though Samr is a Maykr himself, his allegiance doesn't lie with the Khan. Instead, he remains loyal to the Father, still guarding the life sphere in Urdok, and begins to fear what would happen if Hell or the other Maykrs ever got their hands on it. Unfortunately, even without their leader, the war with Hell continues to drag on, and the Maykrs begin to grow desperate. The demons wield a strange power: raw, volatile energy drawn from damned souls. The Maykrs, priests of the Order Dag, discover that this energy, dubbed Essence, can be refined using the Wraith's power into something even greater: Argent Energy. This new energy source offers the Maykrs immortality, halting something called transfiguration, a natural process that overtakes Maykrs who fail to reunite with the Father upon death, transforming them into something else. Seeing an opportunity to save her kind, the Khan Maykr secretly makes a deal with the enemy. In exchange for an endless supply of Argent Energy, she allows the demons access to all worlds under her influence, including Argent D'Nur, betraying her own people in the shadows. When the Night Sentinels discover this treachery, a civil war erupts between those who remain loyal to the Maykrs and those who rebel. Even amid this chaos, the Doomslayer continues his unrelenting war against Hell. Eventually, he becomes too dangerous. The Maykrs realize they can't control him, and they certainly can't kill him. So instead, they deceive him, overpowering the Slayer and sealing him in a sarcophagus, entombed in a hidden vault beneath the Well, their unlimited source of Argent Energy. The Night Sentinels who once stood alongside him are left either dead, divided, or misled. In a final betrayal, Valen, a commander of the Night Sentinels, makes a deal of his own with a Hell priest named Dag Grav. In exchange for the resurrection of his son, killed in the war against Hell, Valen gives up the location of the Elemental Sepulchre, a vault containing the dormant Wraiths. The demons then seize the Wraiths and use them to power the Well, turning the source of Argent D'Nur's strength into a tool of its destruction. Empowered by this endless energy, the forces of Hell completely overwhelm the realm. The civil war becomes meaningless in the face of total annihilation. Sections of Argent D'Nur are pulled into Hell itself, and Valen's reward is exactly what one would expect. His son is resurrected, but as a towering abomination, the Icon of Sin. The Icon swiftly attacks Argent D'Nur, bringing the war to a decisive and devastating end. Argent D'Nur falls, the once proud kingdom reduced to a footnote in Hell's conquest. Entombed deep beneath the surface of Hell, the Doomslayer sarcophagus becomes something of a legend itself. Known for holding a being so dangerous, Hell must contain him rather than destroy him. For ages, its prisoner lies dormant, hidden within the well, as the war-torn fragments of Argent D'Nur fade into myth. During these events, Samir finally goes fully against the will of the Khan. He steals the essence of the father and smuggles it out of Urdok to keep it safe, following instructions the father had given him long ago. Now branded a traitor to his kind, Samir is forced into hiding. To mask his identity, he constructs a new form for himself, transferring his consciousness into a human body and assuming a new name: Dr. Samuel Hayden. In this new form, Hayden makes his way to Earth and quickly rises through the ranks of science and industry, eventually becoming the chairman of the Union Aerospace Corporation. While the public sees him as a brilliant but cold-minded futurist, they could never imagine that beneath the human shell lies an otherworldly exile with knowledge of realms far beyond human comprehension. Under Hayden's guidance, and perhaps because of his influence, the UAC accidentally tears open a portal to Hell on Mars, discovering Argent energy and constructing a tower to harness its power. However, during this work, Hayden's human body is exposed to the energy and develops stage 4 brain cancer. With only months to live, the Seraphim transfers his consciousness once again, this time into a mechanical body, granting him practical immortality and allowing him to continue his work into Hell itself. As the demonic threat draws closer to Earth, Hayden begins preparing defenses in secret. One of his greatest creations is Vega, a highly advanced AI built to contain a Hell invasion. What no one knows is that Vega isn't just an artificial intelligence, it's a fragment of the Father's essence, reformatted and repurposed by Hayden to serve as Earth's last line of defense. Still, Hayden knows that no machine, not even one built by gods, can match what he saw firsthand. He knows there's only one weapon that has ever turned the tide. So, when UAC researchers uncover a sarcophagus in the depths of Hell, one radiating immense, unreadable energy, Hayden doesn't hesitate. He leads a manned mission to Hell and retrieves the sarcophagus, bringing it to Mars to prepare for what's to come. Locked inside his stone prison, the Doomslayer waits. When Hell inevitably breaks loose once again, the UAC gives him exactly what he needs: an opening. While the UAC scientists study the sarcophagus, one of Hayden's top researchers, Dr. Olivia Pierce, becomes seduced by the very powers the UAC are seeking to exploit. She makes contact with Hell's entities, forming a secret cult within the facility. Under Hell's influence, Olivia orchestrates a betrayal of her own, sabotaging the Argent filters on Mars, initiating a massive Hell wave from the Lazarus labs, instantly transforming several UAC staff into possessed, hellish zombies. With the Argent portal active, Olivia opens the gates, allowing Hell's armies to flood into the Mars base. As the facility goes dark, Samuel Hayden decides to use his last resort, the Doomslayer. Deep within the bowels of the base, the ancient sarcophagus finally reopens, and the Doomslayer awakens from his ages-long slumber. After breaking free from his chains, the Slayer finds his Praetor suit, which the UAC had separated and was studying nearby, before donning it and immediately getting back to work. Fighting through the possessed remains of the UAC scientists, the Doomslayer is informed of the ongoing invasion from a transmission by Samuel Hayden. Unaware of his true identity as the Seraphim, the Slayer initially has no interest in speaking to Hayden. Acting solely out of instinct, he rips and tears through the demonic infestation of the base, collecting weapons as he goes and learning from recordings of Dr. Olivia Pierce's actions. Through further transmissions, Dr. Hayden informs the Slayer that Olivia Pierce plans to rip open a permanent portal to Hell using the Argent Tower, a massive conduit for Argent energy on the surface of Mars. If she succeeds, an unending demon invasion will consume Mars and then bring Hell to Earth. Assisted by the Vega AI, the Slayer fights his way to the Argent Tower, traversing chaotic mechanical rooms and crimson-soaked laboratories. Along the way, he finds cryptic ruins and Slayer testaments left behind in the UAC databases, records that Hayden's team had gathered from Hell which recount the legend of the Doomslayer. These fragmented tales tell of his past exploits among the Sentinels and how Hell both fears and despises him. At the Argent Tower, Hayden tasks the Doomslayer with carefully deactivating the machinery. Defiant as ever, the Slayer instead smashes its control panels, rendering the tower permanently useless. Unfortunately, these efforts fail to stop Olivia's plan, as she's able to use the energy stored in an Argent accumulator to successfully open a portal to Hell. In a flash, Olivia is swept away to Hell, and the Doomslayer follows her through the portal shortly after. Now back in Hell's realm, the Doomslayer fights through the evidence of his prior rampages, learning of his rediscovery by Samuel Hayden. The Slayer is able to find a portal to return to Mars, and once he's back, Hayden informs him that the only way to close the new portal, since the Argent Tower has been destroyed, is to take out its power source, the well. Hayden also informs the Slayer about another artifact from Hell that shares the same mark that the Doomslayer's sarcophagus did, one that was in Olivia Pierce's possession. With Vega's assistance, the Doomslayer reaches the Lazarus Labs, where Hayden finally requests to meet his warrior face to face. The Slayer reaches Hayden's office, but as he enters, the Doctor, without warning, installs a prototype interdimensional tether into his suit, allowing Hayden to pull the Doomslayer back from Hell should he ever wind up stuck there again. Hayden then informs the Slayer about the artifact he alluded to earlier, the Helix Stone, a large inscribed stone the UAC extracted from Hell, which has led to all of their work and understanding of the realm. Hayden tasks the Doomslayer with retrieving the Helix from Olivia's private office in the Lazarus Labs, hoping it will also show how to shut down the well. On his way, the Doomslayer uncovers a prototype of a familiar UAC weapon, the BFG 9000, which he gladly adds to his arsenal. Reaching the facility where Olivia activated the Hellwave, the Doomslayer finds and enters her private archives. After learning more about her research into his own past, the Slayer disables the security surrounding the Helix Stone and approaches it. Upon activating the Helix Stone, the Doomslayer is overwhelmed by a vision of another demonic artifact, the Crucible. Surmising that this must be what Olivia was searching for, and that it's the key to shutting down the well, Hayden has Vega track the Crucible's location, which turns out to be in Hell, specifically the Titan's realm. Knowing that they'll need another Argent accumulator to open a new portal, Hayden sends the Slayer to a specimen that's currently holding one, codenamed CD-587. This specimen, as it turns out, is more colloquially known as the Cyberdemon, the result of the Lazarus Project. The Cyberdemon is a fusion of a demon extracted from Hell with the Argent accumulator, creating an invulnerable, unstoppable beast, so long as the accumulator is providing power. The Doomslayer finds the Cyberdemon, and a fierce battle quickly ensues. The Slayer weakens the beast enough to get close enough to rip out the Argent accumulator embedded in its body. When he does so, the destabilization of the Argent core causes a rift to open and send the Doomslayer and the Cyberdemon back to Hell. Here, the Doomslayer finishes the fight, ultimately killing his massive foe for good by impaling his head with its own horn. Fighting through the Titan's realm, the Doomslayer eventually reaches the Necropolis, a large area of Hell housing the now sleeping, towering Icon of Sin. He's soon teleported to an area where he's met with the Crucible's final line of defense, the massive Hell Guards. After defeating them, the Doomslayer is finally able to retrieve the Crucible from its hellish pedestal. As he holds it, the spirits of 5 Night Sentinels appear before him, liberated from their captivity when the Crucible was released from its own. At this moment, Samuel Hayden activates the interdimensional tether, pulling the Doomslayer out of Hell and back to Mars. Now holding the means to contain the power of the well, the Doomslayer only needs to get to it. Luckily, Hayden has another plan to obtain the energy required to send the Slayer to the Hell portal source. This plan, as it turns out, is to use the Argent power stored in the facility running Vega's central processing unit. The Doomslayer fights through the facility to finally disable Vega, but not before creating a backup of the AI for himself. Vega's destruction creates a vacuum of energy that pulls the Doomslayer back to Hell, and thanks to Samuel Hayden, he is taken to the well's location, the remains of the realm of Argent D'Nur. Battling Hell's defenses through the memories of the Night Sentinel's fall, the Slayer uses the Crucible to free the souls of 3 captured Wraiths powering the well. With Hell's portal to Mars closed once again, the Slayer attempts to return to Mars alone. On his way, however, he comes across the surviving Dr. Olivia Pierce. Pierce simply mutters that they promised her so much, before being overwhelmed by demonic energy. The Doctor is then absorbed into a pool of blood, emerging as the massive, demonic Spider Mastermind. After a grueling battle with the Mastermind, the Doomslayer is able to fire a final, point-blank shot from the BFG 9000, finishing the creature and killing whatever remains of Dr. Olivia Pierce. The Doomslayer isn't able to celebrate his victory, however, as he's quickly pulled back to Mars by Hayden's tether once again. Hayden incapacitates the Slayer, and while he congratulates him for successfully stopping the invasion and closing the portal, Hayden states that he can't allow the Slayer to stop the UAC's work with Argent energy. He then takes the Crucible from the Doomslayer, stating that he needs to use it to further his research into Argent energy for an increasingly desperate Earth. Knowing that the Doomslayer will only get in his way, but realizing that he can't kill the unstoppable force, he decides to transport the Slayer to an unknown location, but admitting that one day they'll meet again. As the Doomslayer is tethered away, Samuel Hayden reveals the Crucible's true form: a massive, rune-covered energy blade. At some point, either during or after the Doomslayer's trek through the UAC facility on Mars, another hero is awoken. Dr. Abraham Peters, one of the few UAC scientists to not be affected by Olivia Pierce's Hellwave, was nevertheless killed by the demons infesting the base. However, due to a pre-planned contingency, his consciousness is immediately transferred to a cybernetic combat chassis, placing him into a mechanical body much like Samuel Hayden's. As the last living human on the base, Peters takes it upon himself to contain the invasion within the facility, destroying it if necessary to prevent it from falling into Hell's control. Peters initiates sequences to purge the base's reactors and flush any remaining Argent energy that could be used by Hell. He battles through familiar locations like the Lazarus Labs and even a brief detour into Hell's Titan realm to upload a computer virus that will collapse the portal network. In the end, Dr. Peters succeeds in triggering a base-wide meltdown of the Argent reactor. In his final act, he closes the primary Hell portal, preventing any further demons from coming through. Unfortunately, Dr. Peter's cybernetic frame is damaged in the process, and as he finishes the mission, his consciousness flickers. Dr. Hayden, monitoring remotely, acknowledges Peter's success, but then shuts down his chassis, effectively killing him now that the job is done. With this final move, Hayden finishes the cleanup on Mars and starts to prepare for Hell's next attack. As it turns out, Hayden isn't given much time to plan. Not too long after the incidents on Mars, Hell launches their full-scale invasion of Earth. In the absence of the Doomslayer, as well as the power vacuum left in UAC leadership, Hell's demons are given the perfect opening. Flooding through portals opened by those in the UAC who were still loyal to Olivia and Hell, demons quickly overwhelm the forces of Earth. Before long, 60% of Earth's population is eradicated by the demons. Amidst the chaos, Samuel Hayden and those still loyal to him depart from the UAC, leaving the remnants of the corporation to be overtaken by the cultists and their Hell Priests. These three Hell Priests include Dag Grav, the same priest who resurrected Valen's son as the icon of sin, along with two others named Dag Ronak and Dag Nilox. Leading groups of cultist armies, the Hell Priests guide the invasion of Earth under the auspices of the Khan Maykr, who seeks to harvest Earth's souls to produce more Argent energy to power her realm of Urdok. Samuel Hayden and his remaining loyalists from the UAC, meanwhile, join with the leaders of the surviving nations of Earth, forming the Armored Response Coalition, or ARC. The ARC put up humanity's final resistance, attempting to evacuate civilians while fighting back where possible. Without the Doomslayer, however, their efforts only slow the inevitable. During the ongoing war, Samuel Hayden falls in battle. The remains of his robotic torso are retrieved by the ARC, but their scientists are unable to figure out the technology powering his main cortex. As such, Samuel Hayden effectively dies, and his body is taken, along with the Crucible, to the ARC complex on Earth. Just when all hope seems lost, however, somehow, the Doomslayer returns. Drifting in space, aboard his spacefaring stronghold called the Fortress of Doom that he's acquired during his downtime, the Doomslayer picks up a distress call from one of Earth's few remaining survivors. The Doomslayer dons a new and improved Praetor suit, and the restored copy of Vega sets his teleporter to the location of one of the Hell Priests, what was once the United States. Fighting through the remains of a metropolitan city, the Slayer finds Dag Nilox and makes quick work of it. Despite the Hell Priest claiming that his soul is guarded, the Slayer simply shows Nilox a talisman proving that the priest's guardian has since been killed. The Doomslayer then tears off Dag Nilox's head, killing the first of the three Hell Priests spearheading the Earth invasion. The Doomslayer then finds a portal to a demonic citadel where the Khan Maykr is currently holding court. Entering the citadel, the Slayer interrupts the Dajic Council, tossing the decapitated skull of Dag Nilox between the two remaining Hell Priests, Dags Grav and Ronak. While they're both visibly shaken by the assassination of their cohort, they claim that the Doomslayer won't stop them, before both scurrying away via teleporters. In the Hell Priest's wake, the Khan Maykr appears before the Doomslayer, in a form invulnerable while outside of her realm, to reinforce her will, claiming that humanity will have a chance to repent by providing Urdok with energy. The Doomslayer ignores her, returning to the Fortress of Doom to begin his search for the remaining two Hell Priests. Vega informs the Slayer that he must rebuild the fortress's celestial locator in order to track the locations of the priests. To obtain the components he needs, the Doomslayer heads to Exultia, the fallen city of Sentinel Past. There, he fights his way to the Night Sentinel's final leader, King Novik's throne room, where he finds a new casing for the celestial locator. The spirit of the fallen king then appears, seated on his throne, and he warns the Doomslayer about killing the priests, hinting that he's interfering with the predetermined fate of humanity. Despite the Slayer's respect for his former king, he nonetheless ignores his warning, taking the casing and leaving. The Doomslayer then takes a trip back to Hell to find a way to power up the locator. There, he comes across Valen, the former Night Sentinel who turned the Wraiths over to the Maykrs. Valen, having exiled himself to Hell out of shame for his actions, has since abandoned his name, now only being known as the Betrayer. While the Betrayer warns the Slayer that saving his people won't bring him peace, but rather just make the burden he already carries worse, he still powers up the Celestial Locator. Returning it to the Doomslayer, the Betrayer also gives him a dagger, asking him to plunge it into the heart of his son, buried within the Icon of Sin, hoping releasing his soul will finally give the father and son peace. The Doomslayer escapes Hell back to the Fortress of Doom and uses the Celestial Locator. Vega tracks the location of the second Hell Priest, Dag Ronak, to a UAC cultist base in the Arctic and sets the teleporter's coordinates. Arriving at the facility, Dag Ronak sends his best defenses at the Slayer, daring him to survive the demonic gauntlet. While his lackeys are formidable, the Doomslayer rips and tears through them, even taking neurological control of a Revenant demon drone to retrieve his super shotgun. When he reaches the priest's final guardians, the Doomslayer finds cybernetic demonic beings created solely to destroy him, aptly named Doom Hunters. After making quick work of the priest's guardians, Dag Ronak's soul is left unguarded for the Doomslayer to claim. While Dag Ronak tries to bargain with the Slayer, he promptly decapitates the priest, much like the one before. With only one Hell Priest remaining, the Doomslayer returns to the Fortress of Doom to locate it. However, immediately upon stepping foot in the fortress, Vega announces that their system is being corrupted. The Khan Maykr then appears in a transmission, asserting that despite the loss of two of her priests, Hell still won't fall. Electing to move the final priest, Dag Grav, to a location the Slayer can't locate. As the Khan Maykr ends her transmission, Vega notices a massive increase in demonic activity at the nexus of the initial Earth invasion, a massive super gore nest. The Doomslayer teleports to the Super Gore Nest's location on Earth, fighting through its demonic spawn to reach what used to be a UAC facility's main power generator. The Slayer is then able to restore power to the facility, reactivating the generator and creating a blast that destroys the heart of the Gore Nest, as well as the facility itself. With the Super Gore Nest out of the way, the Doomslayer returns to his hunt for the final Hell Priest. Having exhausted all other options, Vega determines that it's time to ask someone else for help. Dr. Samuel Hayden. Vega sets the fortress's teleporter to the ARC complex, and the Slayer enters it to search the facility for the remains of his former foe. After using a pair of turrets built into the complex to clear a path inside, the Slayer enters the facility to search for Samuel Hayden's lab. Upon reaching the top of the facility, the Doomslayer finds the remaining ARC scientists studying Hayden, as well as the artifact that's stored with him, the Crucible, which the Slayer quickly returns to his own possession. He then finds his target, the lifeless, mechanoid body of Samuel Hayden, which lost one arm as well as its entire lower half in the battle that took his life. An ARC scientist states that they were given specific orders for Hayden's very careful extraction. Taking this into account, the Doomslayer quickly tears Hayden's body from its support device and prepares to drag it back to the fortress. As he attempts to leave, however, a new threat, one unlike he's ever seen before, arrives through a demonic portal. This very contentious enemy is known as a Marauder, a resurrected Night Sentinel corrupted by the forces of Hell to fight against the very Slayer they once fought alongside. The Doomslayer tosses Hayden's body through a portal of his own before taking on the Marauder in a battle that's pretty fun the first time and definitely won't get old by like the 90th time you have to shoot these dogs. After defeating the Marauder, the Doomslayer returns to his fortress, where Vega announces that thanks to his efforts thus far, 68% of Hell's occupying force on Earth has been destroyed, and eliminating the final Hell Priest should prevent the demons from consuming Earth. The Slayer then places Hayden's body into a stasis pod, and his consciousness is uploaded into the Doom Fortress's mainframe. Dr. Samuel Hayden's voice then echoes through the halls of the fortress, announcing that the final priest is hiding in Sentinel Prime, a region of Argent D'Nur now under Maykr control. Unfortunately, the only way to get to Sentinel Prime is through a slipgate within the core of Mars, which, as Hayden quickly points out, there's no access to. Undeterred, the Doomslayer decides to make his own path to the center of Mars, pulling up the schematics for the massive BFG 10,000 orbital cannon. The Slayer then opens a portal to the UAC facility on Mars's Phobos moon, strong-arming past the remaining scientists and guards there to make his way to the cannon's controls. Manning the BFG 10,000, the Slayer takes aim at the surface of Mars, disengaging the safety protocols and firing a direct blast through the planet. Taking part of the massive BFG with him, the Slayer evacuates the Phobos base and fights his way to the cannon itself, so he can enter the barrel and shoot himself to a facility containing escape pods. He then enters one, and when it lands, the Doomslayer exits to find himself in the lost city of Hebeth, buried underneath the surface of the planet. He fights through it to reach the slipgate, finally entering it to reach Sentinel Prime. There, the Doomslayer finds himself in a cathedral, where he's surprisingly met by surviving Night Sentinels, who greet him with his mantra of rip and tear, as a Maykr angel informs the priest of the Slayer's arrival. As he explores Sentinel Prime, the Slayer recognizes it as the place he was first brought to prove himself before the Dajic priests. The Khan Maykr appears by transmission and offers a truce, to return what demons took away from him so long ago if he simply turns around and lets Dag Grav live. While she may be referring to Daisy, the Slayer's long-lost beloved pet rabbit, the Khan Maykr might also be hinting at a life he lived long before becoming the Doomslayer, something supported by a torn family photograph of a man, woman, and their son that the Slayer keeps aboard the Fortress of Doom. The Slayer reaches the arena and meets Dag Grav face to face. Grav warns the Slayer that if he spills the priest's blood on the sacred grounds, he'll lose all sovereignty with the remaining Sentinels now under his leadership. In a flash, Dag Grav vanishes, summoning his guardian, the massive Gladiator demon, beginning perhaps the greatest battle the Slayer has encountered thus far. Eventually, the Gladiator falls, leaving the Doomslayer, the sole standing victor in the arena, once more. As Dag Grav reappears, a swift blast of the Doomslayer's shotgun removes his skull as well, killing the final Hell Priest. As the Night Sentinels turn their weapons on the Slayer, he opens a portal and returns to the Fortress of Doom. However, when he returns, he finds all of the fortress's systems overloaded by the Khan Maykr, finally fed up with the Slayer's meddling. She finally decides to bring out the big guns. The Khan Maykr announces that she will now reawaken the Icon of Sin to completely destroy Earth instead of simply using it as a power source. Now trapped inside the non-functioning fortress, the Doomslayer is forced to fight an onslaught of demons sent by the Khan Maykr. After defending his fortress, the Slayer uses the demonic crucible to repower his ship, the irony of which Samuel Hayden wastes no time to point out. While the demonic infestation of Earth has come to a stop, thanks to the death of the Hell Priests, the Icon of Sin will arrive shortly to decimate the planet. Hayden points out that the only way to stop a Titan like the Icon of Sin is to obtain a Slayer's Crucible Blade. The Doomslayer's own crucible was left in the Sentinel city of Terras Nabad, after he used it to slay another Titan during Hell's first invasion of the realm. Vega sets his teleporter to Terras Nabad, and the Doomslayer steps through it to return to what was once the capital city of Argent D'Nur. While Hayden draws parallels between Argent D'Nor and Earth, hinting that the Slayer's failures are doomed to repeat themselves, he nonetheless rages on through the demon-infested city, discovering the divinity machine and recalling the Seraphim using it on him in secret. When the Slayer reaches the corpse of the Titan he killed long ago, Hayden warns him that once he retrieves his Crucible Blade, the beast will rise once again. The Doomslayer retrieves the Crucible's hilt, breaking off the blade to keep the Titan slain. The Doomslayer then revisits his vault, collecting a medallion he takes below the throne room, reforging his Crucible Blade in a pool of fire and energy. After testing out his newly acquired weapon, the Slayer returns to the Fortress of Doom to plan his next steps. Hoping to take the fight directly to the Khan Maykr before she can resurrect the Icon of Sin, he decides to go where no human or Sentinel has ever set foot. The Maykrs' own home realm, Urdak. In order to get there, Hayden surmises that the Doomslayer can pass through the void between the Maykrs' realm and their Argent factory in Hell, located in a city called Nekrivel. The Slayer then detaches Vega from the fortress's mainframe, placing the AI into an external drive to bring along for assistance in creating an exit portal. After Hayden opens a portal to the hellish city, the Doomslayer enters to find the chamber of Calabas the Sightless Judge, a demonic entity that decides which souls are used to create Argent energy. Literally fighting his way through Calabas, killing the Sightless Judge as well as destroying a statue of Olivia Pierce, the Doomslayer reaches the tall citadel that houses the soul extraction chamber, which the Slayer can use to reach Urdak. Fighting his way up the citadel's spire, the Slayer reaches the top to find the tower held by two enslaved Titans. He breaks the chains, freeing the Titans and causing the tower to collapse, allowing the Doomslayer to enter the Argent energy field, instantly taking him to Urdak. The Slayer enters a Maykr facility, which recognizes Hayden's consciousness as the Seraphim. Inside, he sees the Khan Maykr conducting the ritual to revive the Icon of Sin, with the creature's heart on a pedestal at the center. The Doomslayer takes out the dagger that was given to him by the Betrayer and quickly stabs it into the unprotected heart, destroying it in a blast of light. Free from the Maker's control, the Icon of Sin awakens, and the Slayer's actions immediately backfire as the Titan portals to Earth to demolish it on its own. As the Doomslayer uses Vega to reconfigure a portal of his own back to Earth, the AI realizes its origin as the Father. The Slayer continues to work on getting the portal working, noticing demons swarming into Urdak. Hayden explains that by awakening the Icon of Sin inside the realm, the seal between it and Hell has been broken, effectively dooming the Maker's world. The Doomslayer gets the portal to Earth operational, but he's got one obstacle in his way out of Urdak: the Khan Maykr. Making her final stand, the Khan sprouts wings and takes flight, engaging in an aerial battle. Using all of the tools in his disposal, the Doomslayer finally defeats the Khan Maykr, bringing an end to her millennia-long reign. In her final words, the Khan Maykr warns that the Slayer has broken the holy seal of Urdak, and that his transgressions will jeopardize all of creation. As the Khan Maykr dies, the life sphere containing the essence of her being raises up into the sky, before exploding, leaving a mysterious voice to scream out in despair from an unknown location. The Doomslayer then enters the portal to Earth and returns to his home, currently under siege by the Icon of Sin and the forces of Hell. As humanity's last hope, once again, the Doomslayer is left to fight the Icon of Sin and hopefully slay another Titan. After an excruciating battle, where the Slayer methodically targets the Icon of Sin's body parts, he wields his Crucible Blade, lunging at the Titan and planting it into its skull. Breaking the blade off at the hilt, the Slayer jumps off of the Icon of Sin as it falls dead. With another invasion of Earth thwarted, the Doomslayer stands tall, as the words of King Novik echo through his mind, reminding him that his fight is eternal. These words prove true very soon, as a new threat rises. The demons that remain in Urdok threaten to use the higher dimension to increase the reach of their conquest exponentially, placing all of existence at risk. Samuel Hayden tells the Doomslayer that the only way they can regain control of Urdok is with the Seraphim's help, Hayden's true identity still being a secret to the Slayer. Hayden has the ARC help the Doomslayer track down the Seraphim, and after obtaining the key to his chamber, the Slayer is finally met with the truth. The Doomslayer finds the Seraphim's lifeless body, and Samuel Hayden has him upload his consciousness into the vessel. Back in his original form, the Seraphim, Samur Maykr finally reveals his true identity as Samuel Hayden. The Seraphim reminds the Doomslayer that his superhuman abilities are thanks to him, and that his gifts are now owed to him and the Father, who the Seraphim aims to return to his throne. The Doomslayer returns with the Seraphim to the ARC's command center, where the former Samuel Hayden tells the Slayer that he must retrieve the Father's life sphere, currently located in the blood swamps within the bowels of Hell. While the Seraphim sends the Slayer to Hell to retrieve the Father's life sphere, the Slayer decides that as soon as he finds it, he'll destroy it instead. After proving himself in the trial of the Malagog, the massive, even for a Titan, eponymous demon takes the Doomslayer to the holding place of the Father's life sphere, Ingmor's sanctum. The Seraphim meets him there, but when the Slayer picks up the sphere, he simply crushes it in his hands, sending a painful pulse through the Maker. At this point, the Seraphim's transfiguration process increases rapidly. The Doomslayer then turns his sight on another life sphere nearby, that of the Dark Lord of Hell himself. The Slayer determines that if he can face the Dark Lord in the flesh and kill him, he can finally end Hell's war at the root. He takes the Dark Lord's sphere back to the ARC base, where the scientists quickly evacuate upon seeing what the Slayer is carrying. One intern stays behind, eager to assist the Doomslayer, using the sphere to open a portal to Urdok, where he can use the Luminarium to conjure the Dark Lord into a physical form to finally defeat him. As the intern wishes luck to whom he calls Doom Guy, the Slayer walks through the portal to find a fully infested Urdok, thanks to the missing Khan Maykr and broken seal. Soon he's contacted by Vega, whom he left behind in the realm during his last visit. The AI has since realized that he is what remains of the Father, asking the Slayer for help in reviving his essence from the life sphere, not knowing that the very same man he's asking has already destroyed it. When the Doomslayer reaches the Luminarium, the Seraphim awaits him there. With the loss of the Khan Maykr and the Father's essence, the Seraphim succumbs to his transfiguration and mutates into a stronger form. While Samur Maykr is able to pull energy directly from the forces of Hell and Urdok to shield himself, he's still no match for the Doomslayer, who ultimately takes him down. As the Slayer goes to deliver the killing blow, however, the Father, in the form of Vega, teleports his loyal servant away, claiming that now the Slayer's mission is his own. The Doomslayer then enters the Luminarium and, ignoring the Father's warnings, submits the Dark Lord's life sphere. The Dark Lord's physical form then begins to manifest, and as the Slayer watches, the Father explains that the Dark Lord isn't just a king. He's a relentless warrior of the Dark Realm. Essentially, he's his world's version of the Doomslayer. The Dark Lord then looks up with piercing red eyes, and staring back at the Doomslayer is a perfect reflection of himself. Acting on instinct, the Slayer opens fire, but his attacks have no effect. The Luminarium's holy ground simply forbids any bloodshed. The Dark Lord shrugs off the attack and vows to await the Slayer in Imora, the capital city of Hell. With that, he vanishes through a portal, leaving the Slayer to prepare for one final confrontation. According to prophecy, if the Doomslayer can defeat the Dark Lord, all of the demons outside of Hell will cease to exist, leaving his ultimate goal finally within reach. To follow the Dark Lord to Imora, the Slayer first needs a way in. The Father informs him of a forgotten portal device called the Gate of Divun, the only means of breaching Imora's defenses, but it requires a colossal power source to operate. For that, the Slayer travels to his old homeworld of Argent Denor, seeking an ancient crystal hidden within the legendary World Spear. As he battles through a ruined Sentinel village, the Doomslayer is guided by the lingering spirit of Commander Valen, the betrayer from his past. With Valen's aid, the Slayer claims a new weapon, the mighty Sentinel Hammer. He then finds and reignites the Torch of Kings, an ancient beacon calling all remaining Argenta warriors to rally behind him. Riding atop a dragon-like creature called a Wintherin, he soars through the skies to reach the base of the World Spear. After being allowed inside once the Father announces him as worthy, the Slayer realizes that the World Spear isn't a giant crystal like originally thought. It's a ship, and it's filled with dormant wraiths, hinting at their true origin. Inside, he secures a shard of the crystal powering the spear and then portals back to Earth, artifact in hand. As soon as he returns to Earth, the Slayer races to a hidden UAC facility in an abandoned city. There, he fights through the remaining demonic forces and uses the World Spear's crystal shard to power up the dormant gate of Divum. Now restored to full power, the gate opens a portal straight to Imora's outskirts. The Doomslayer steps through to find war waiting for him on an epic scale. On one side, the Dark Lord, now piloting a large mecha suit, has assembled the full might of Hell's armies. On the other, answering the Torch's signal, the Sentinel forces arrive in force to back up the Slayer, including a redeemed Commander Valen. A ferocious battle erupts outside Imora's massive walls, and the two armies collide. Amid the chaos, the Slayer carves his way through the demonic horde, catching a glimpse of the Dark Lord escaping in an upside-down crucifix-shaped ship. With sheer determination and plenty of firepower, including catching a ride on a Sentinel hover ship, the Doomslayer breaches Imora's gates and pushes onward into the Dark Lord's inner sanctum. In the throne room, the Doomslayer confronts the Dark Lord at last, invoking an ancient ritual of one-on-one combat to decide the fate of all. The Father's voice reminds the Slayer that if the Dark Lord is destroyed here and now, every demon he has unleashed beyond Hell's borders will also perish. With the stakes set, the titanic duel begins, an epic battle that spans dimensions and even tears through the ruins of Earth and the hallowed arenas of Ingmor's sanctum. As their battle rages, the Dark Lord tries one last mind game. He reveals that he was actually the first being, the creator of the Father, and that history was rewritten to cast him as a wayward creation. The Father confirms this shocking revelation, revealing the true origins of Hell. As it turns out, the Dark Lord, originally called Devoth, ruled a realm called Jakad, which was on an even higher plane than Urdok. However, his first creation, the Father, turned against him, sealing him away and stealing his power and name from him. The realm of Jakad was then corrupted, turning into the demon-infested Hell, still ravishing the various realms. This new information doesn't shake the Slayer's resolve in the slightest. In the end, the Doomslayer prevails, and as he removes his helmet, he stares his creator down face to face. The Dark Lord asks him if he has anything to say before striking him down, and as the Doomslayer delivers a final stab to his creator's throat, he simply says, "No." The Dark Lord's fall triggers a cascade of destruction through Hell's forces. Every demon rampaging on Earth or any other world outside of Hell suddenly crumbles to dust. The Dark Lord's life sphere emerges from his body once again, exploding before vanishing for good. At long last, the apocalypse is averted, and the dimensional war is over. However, the Doomslayer's victory doesn't come without a price. In the aftermath of victory, he staggers and collapses, his supernatural life force abruptly draining. Thanks to his use of the Divinity Machine, the Doomslayer is effectively another creation of the Dark Lord, and the severing of the bond causes him to fall unconscious. Following his collapse, 3 Maykrs appear and place the unconscious Slayer inside an ornate sarcophagus at the center of Ingmor's sanctum, the same graveyard the Father and the Dark Lord once shared. Here, the great hero who has fought throughout time and space is finally allowed to rest, bringing the saga of the Doom Slayer to a bittersweet close. For now. While it's here that we end the Doom Slayer's tale, luckily, Doom, the Dark Ages, will take us back to the Doom Slayer's rise, giving us another story to slay through as we fill in the gaps of his legend. Now, while there may only be one hell in the Doom franchise, it connects to every dimension in the multiverse. As such, we've got a couple other stories to tell from these other universes. These games likely take place in their own timelines, but with Doom, everything seems to be fair game. The key with these stories is to enjoy them on their own and see if they'll be brought in more concretely later. Let's start with 2004's Doom 3. Originally intended to be a complete reboot of the Doom series, ignoring the events of Doom 1, 2, and all of their respective expansions. This gives us an entirely fresh story, with a new Mars, a new Marine, and a new mission. So keep that in mind as we begin. In the year 2145, we return to Mars once again, joining another naturally unnamed Marine as he arrives at the Union Aerospace Corporation's research facility, Mars City. His orders are straightforward: report to Master Sergeant Thomas Kelly. However, it's immediately clear that things aren't as simple as they seem. Alongside him are 2 other arrivals: UAC Counselor Elliot Swan and his no-nonsense bodyguard, Jack Campbell. They're not here for a standard inspection. They've been sent to investigate a string of disturbing incidents surrounding top researcher Dr. Malcolm Betruger's teleportation experiments. From the moment the Marine steps off the dropship, tension is palpable. The hallways echo with nervous whispers about missing scientists, unexplained equipment failures, and unsettling nightmares plaguing the personnel. Counselor Swan confronts Dr. Betruger directly about the chaos, but Betruger brushes off his concerns with unsettling arrogance, assuring him cryptically that amazing things will happen soon. Reporting to Master Sergeant Thomas Kelly, or Sarge as his troops call him, in Marine Command, the Marine barely has time to settle in before receiving his first assignment: locate Dr. Jonathan Ishii, a scientist who's gone missing near an old, abandoned communications building. Navigating through the darkened corridors, the Marine eventually discovers Ishii frantically trying to transmit a panicked warning back to Earth. However, before the message can fully be sent, an unauthorized teleportation experiment ordered by Dr. Betruger goes catastrophically wrong. The portal overloads, tearing open a gateway directly into Hell. Waves of demonic energy instantly sweep through Mars City, killing many personnel and transforming countless others, including Dr. Ishii, into horrific, zombified abominations. Mars City is plunged into chaos, with the facility's hallways becoming twisted, blood-soaked nightmares. The Marine battles back toward Marine Command through possessed coworkers and fire-hurling imps crawling out of every possible dark corner the developers could find. Sergeant Kelly takes up command and radios frantic instructions, trying desperately to regroup survivors, but his efforts are futile. Counselor Swan and Jack Campbell urgently try to take control of the situation from Dr. Betruger, who directly denies their orders, forcing them to resort to Plan B. The Marine eventually learns that Bravo Team, another squad sent earlier to send a distress call to Earth, has been wiped out by a demon ambush at the Enpro plant before completing their mission. Well, not entirely wiped out, but we'll get to that soon. Determined to finish Bravo Team's work, the Marine makes his way through the devastated Alpha Labs, recovering Bravo Team's transmission card from one of the 2 surviving members along the way, although he is quickly slaughtered after handing it over. More on the other survivor later. The Marine then fights his way through increasingly stranger demonic abominations, as well as hellish visions of his own, as he makes his way to the communications array. When he arrives, however, he finds that Counselor Swan and Jack Campbell have deliberately sabotaged it, believing that sending a distress signal would only lure more humans into Hell's grasp. The Marine reaches the communications satellite and manually sends the transmission, alerting Earth to send reinforcements. Swan contacts the Marine directly and pleads with him to cancel the distress call, leaving the option ultimately up to the Marine. Forced deeper into the facility, the Marine is then contacted by Betruger, who reveals himself as the mastermind behind the ongoing events. He either thanks the Marine for sending the transmission, or sends it himself. Either way, the distress call summons more souls to Mars to fall to his demonic legion, as well as bringing ships that they can use to bring his hell to Earth. Now with a ticking clock, the Marine fights to find a way to stop Betruger's plan before the reinforcements arrive to fall into his trap. Reaching Delta Labs, he learns from a UAC scientist named Ian McCormick that Betruger has stolen an ancient Martian artifact known as the Soul Cube and has taken it through a portal to Hell. Only by retrieving the cube can the portal be closed and the invasion be stopped. While working to get multiple teleporters working to continue through the facility, the Marine finds several specimens retrieved from the UAC's teleporter missions, various demons stored in stasis pods. When he reaches the portal where the invasion began, the Marine finds Betruger waiting for him. The Mad Doctor opens the portal and two massive Hell Knights crawl through and attack. After he defeats them, the portal pulls the Marine inside, and he's hurled directly into Hell itself. Battling Hell's mightiest forces through twisted, infernal landscapes, he eventually discovers and defeats the monstrous Guardian of Hell protecting the Soul Cube, ultimately retrieving the stolen artifact. When he picks it up, the souls inside begin to speak to him, promising to help him vanquish evil. Returning to Mars, Soul Cube in hand, the Marine seals off the portal, although Betruger claims to have opened another one in the caverns shortly after. The Marine eventually comes across an injured Counselor Swan on the ground. Swan somberly informs the Marine that Sarge is gone, having succumbed to Hell's influence and joining their side. Swan then reveals that Hell lost the battle for Earth during the dawn of time, and now their revenge and ultimate victory is within their grasp. It's up to the Marine to stop them once and for all. Taking Swan's PDA with him, the Marine presses on. Meanwhile, Swan's bodyguard, Campbell, searches for Sergeant Kelly. Unfortunately, by the time the Marine catches up to him, Campbell has been mortally wounded by Sarge, who also stole his gun, the extremely powerful BFG 9000. The Marine then finds Sarge, or at least what remains of him. He's since been transformed into a half-man, half-tank, half-demon called Saboth, with the BFG 9000 mounted on his shoulder. After defeating Saboth, the Marine grabs the BFG 9000, adding it to his arsenal, and continues his search for Betruger. He continues to the new Hell portal in the caverns, descending deep underground to find Hell itself bleeding into the caverns. Eventually, he finds and confronts Betruger's final guardian, the towering, unstoppable Cyber Demon. After an intense fight, the Marine charges the Soul Cube with the demonic souls he's slain and unleashes its ancient power, destroying the Cyber Demon and finally sealing the last Hell portal shut. Sometime later, reinforcements eventually arrive to find the Marine unconscious but still alive, Mars saved once more from annihilation. However, Betruger's fate is far less straightforward. Transformed into a hideous, demonic dragon, now known as the Maledict, Betruger laughs from deep within Hell, promising this victory is only temporary. As mentioned earlier, only a single Marine survives from Bravo Team. Immediately contacted via radio by Dr. Richard Maykrs, a scientist hidden in a secret sector known as Exis Labs, the Marine learns a terrifying truth. The demons have captured a prototype teleporter, powerful enough for their armies to directly reach Earth. Fighting his way through wrecked stations of Mars City and abandoned labs overrun by Hell's creatures, the Bravo Team Marine slowly restores power to Exus Labs. After braving fierce resistance, he manages to use the experimental teleporter to enter a demonic outpost deep in Hell itself, determined to destroy the teleporter from the other side. Inside Hell's stronghold, the Marine faces a massive guardian demon protecting the teleporter array. After an intense battle, he narrowly defeats it and sabotages the teleporter core, collapsing the gateway back to Mars and thwarting yet another invasion of Earth. The Bravo Team Marine is luckily able to return to Mars through the teleporter just before it overloads, where he's soon rescued by the arriving dropships from Earth, finally arriving to answer the distress call. 2 years after the catastrophic events at Mars City, the Union Aerospace Corporation returns to Mars once more after picking up a signal from the abandoned facility there. Led by scientist Dr. Elizabeth McNeil, previously a whistleblower against Dr. Betruger, the UAC restarts excavation efforts at Site 1, the same ancient Martian ruins where the Soul Cube was first uncovered. We then find another Marine, this one part of Red Team, as his unit explores deeper beneath Mars's surface than anyone has before. Inside an untouched ancient chamber, they uncover another artifact, a mysterious relic suspended midair, radiating an unsettling energy. Unable to resist its pull, the Marine touches the artifact. Suddenly, a surge of energy blasts through the chamber, killing his fellow Marines and violently reopening the gates to Hell. On the other side, the Maledict, having been patiently awaiting this opening, calls upon the legions of Hell to rise up beside him, declaring that the moment he's promised has finally arrived. He then sends 3 Hell Hunters through the portal to retrieve the artifact. The Marine then awakens, artifact now in hand, and quickly receives communication from Dr. McNeil, who urges him to bring her the artifact at the Phobos Labs immediately. On his way, the Marine moves through Erebus Labs, a research complex built atop the ruins, fighting through bloodied labs and demon-infested corridors. Approaching the lab's exit, a sudden Hell portal rips open, unleashing the Hell Time Hunter, an elite demon whose presence literally warps time. After defeating the demon, the Hunter's time-altering abilities are absorbed into the artifact, allowing the Marine to harness them himself to slow time. However, the only way to recharge the artifact, he learns, is with the souls of the dead humans that are around him. The Marine eventually finds Dr. Cloud, another UAC researcher, who begins to look at the artifact as well as a tablet the Marine recovered called the Primitive. After exiting Erebus Labs, the Marine attempts to board a monorail towards Phobos Labs to search for Dr. McNeil. As he waits for the train, another Guardian arrives from a fresh portal, the Berserk Hunter. After a brutal fight, the Marine eventually defeats this creature as well. The artifact absorbs its rage, unlocking a Berserk glyph that lets the Marine shatter lesser demons with a single punch. After boarding the monorail and taking it to Phobos Labs, the Marine finally meets Dr. Elizabeth McNeil face to face. Comparing the artifact with 2 recovered Martian stone tablets, they identify it as the Heart of Hell, a demon-forged gateway like the one Betruger originally used, which the demons can use to reopen the breach and resume the invasion. The only way to stop them, McNeil determines, is to return the heart from whence it came, returning to Hell through the old Delta Labs portal, which has been offline since the 2145 disaster. Powering the teleporter will require every energy source Phobos Labs can spare, so McNeil orders the Marine to shut down various plasma reactors to reroute their output to the site teleporter. During this task, the Marine fights and defeats the 3rd and final Hell Hunter, the Invulnerability Hunter, completing the artifact's collection of abilities. With all the reactors disabled, McNeil brings the old teleporter online. Using it, the Marine reaches Delta Labs, which has fused with Hell. The Marine navigates corridors phasing between reality and a hellish mirror image, Walls of flesh, flashes of skeletons, and various other reality shifts plague him on his journey. At the main gateway, he finally crosses into Hell, where he finds and confronts Dr. Betruger's current form, the Winged Maledict. Switching between Helltime dodges, berserk strikes, and brief invulnerability windows, the Marine utilizes the artifact as well as the arsenal he's built thus far to weaken the creature long enough to open a window to attack. The Marine then fires a final missile towards the Maledict, but the dragon dodges it and lands next to him. The Maledict then grabs the Marine with his jaw, slamming him to the ground. As Betruger's head extrudes from the Maledict's mouth, he demands that the Marine return the artifact. The Marine complies, shoving it down Betruger's throat. As he ingests the artifact, the reaction vaporizes both the heart and the Maledict, leaving only the good doctor's skull in the creature's wake. As the portal closes, the Marine blacks out. McNeil's voice then breaks the silence, stating, "Marine, welcome home." Back on Mars, either in this timeline or another, the Union Aerospace Corporation finds itself in yet another crisis. The Mars Outpost facility has gone dark, and a distress call brings a lone Marine, perhaps even the same one as the last, back to the Red Planet, answering the call to arms once again. From the moment he arrives, it's clear the situation is dire. Demons have already overrun the facility, sector by sector, and whatever happened here, it wasn't an accident. The Marine begins working his way through 7 sectors of the base, assisted remotely by various scientists, including the calm, friendly Dr. Gerard. However, something feels off. Gerard's orders grow increasingly suspect, and after a near-death encounter set up by another UAC employee named Mr. Nadira, the Marine narrowly escapes a trap. The deeper he goes, the more rumors surface, namely involving a disgraced researcher named Kronos, fired by the UAC for unauthorized teleportation experiments. As trust begins to unravel, so does Gerard's facade. In Sector 6, Nadira is suddenly betrayed and left to die by the very demons he helped summon. When the Marine reaches the entrance to the reactor sector, the truth finally comes out. Dr. Gerard was actually Kronos all along, having operated under an alias to secretly orchestrate the entire demonic invasion from within the base. Kronos then sheds his disguise and transforms into a towering demon. The two engage in battle, and the Marine ultimately defeats him. Afterwards, he rushes to destroy the power couplings on the facility's reactor, sealing the portal that Kronos had used to bring Hell to Mars. Just before the portal closes, however, something massive slips through: the familiar fusion of demon flesh and human engineering, the Cyber Demon, Kronos' ultimate creation. The Marine, bloodied and alone, fights tooth and nail in a final standoff, barely surviving but defeating the massive force of Hell. While the immediate threat is over, the scars run deep. As the Marine prepares for cleanup, one truth remains: Hell might be pushed back, but it's never truly gone. 1 year later, this proves true as Hell strikes again, this time at Tycho Station, the UAC's lunar outpost. The Union Aerospace Corporation dispatches 3 operatives to Earth's moon to investigate: Major Kira Morgan, scientist Riley O'Connor, a last-minute addition whose ship was commandeered by the team, and our returning Marine, now fully named and ranked as Sergeant Stan Blazkowicz, of the Wolfenstein Blazkowiczes. There's your other crossover mention. Upon arrival, the team glimpses an imp chasing someone away. As they disembark their ship, the imp tears the scientist to pieces. Luckily, the group are soon rescued by a chainsaw-wielding Castle Caldex, a UAC employee who kills the imp before confirming the worst: the base is already overrun. Morgan and O'Connor leave with Caldex, while Blazkowicz stays back to wait for backup to arrive. Moments later, however, the entryway collapses, leaving no way in for support. With no choice, Blazkowicz decides to head towards the Maglev station, where Caldex and his crewmates have gone. While fighting through zombified workers and attempting to regroup, Blazkowicz encounters a UAC-developed AI named Sal. The standoffish AI doesn't exactly make Blazkowicz's path any easier, but he eventually finds Caldex, who advises the Marine to take the rail station to the Kepler site to find the others. As he makes his way through the Kaisha space on the way, Blazkowicz meets another, far more dangerous artificial intelligence called Vios. The Marine is suddenly pulled into a strange, virtual dimension, Vios' domain, where the sadistic AI taunts him, treating him as a plaything. At the end of their encounter, Vios forces a decision: allocate resources to the AI, or deny them, as Sal recommends. The consequences aren't immediately clear, but the choice affects the AI's strength later. After a quick battle, Blazkowicz exits the virtual realm just as quickly and mysteriously as he arrived. Blazkowicz continues to make his way through Kepler's site, having another run-in with Caldex. Huh? Come on, that one was good. Eventually reuniting with Morgan. Unfortunately, they're separated by a fissure in the ground, so he's forced to find another way around to reach her. However, as another portal opens, Blazkowicz is forcefully pulled into Hell. There, he quickly battles the Pinkinator, a blobby beast that continuously spits out smaller, bull demons. After the creature is destroyed, another portal opens, unexpectedly dropping Blazkowicz inside a supply closet at the UAC facility on Earth's east coast. The base is in lockdown, but Vios has followed him, attacking the facility's mainframe and seemingly bringing the demons with him. After another digital battle with Vios, the Marine reaches the UAC labs, where the AI challenges him to another. Making his way through the UAC's research and development facility, Sal reveals that Vios is something more than an AI. It's a virtual representation of something horrible, trying to enter their world. Despite how annoying she finds humans, Sal has grown fond of them and implores Blazkowicz to stop Vios. After fighting the massive spider mastermind, the Marine confronts a scientist seemingly working for Vios, who activates a teleporter that banishes Blazkowicz to the heart of Hell, a place called Gehenna. There, Blazkowicz finds the ruins of a UAC dig site, once used to mine demonic knowledge. He pushes forward through the fiery landscapes and research areas, finding scientists desperately trying to survive and escape. The Marine then briefly reunites with one of his fellow crewmates, who frantically gives him the BFG 9000 before running off. The Marine then enters Abaddon, fighting through nightmarish demons before finding and defeating a rampaging cyber demon, finally reaching Vios' core. During the final showdown, the AI reveals its true nature. Vios stands for Virtual Icon of Sin, a digital resurrection of Hell's most feared weapon. Before Blazkowicz is the Icon of Sin's physical mainframe, and depending on his earlier choices to allocate or delete the resources, Vios' power varies, turning his potential prior mercy into a current punishment. After an intense battle back and forth through the virtual realm, Blazkowicz destroys Vios' systems, finally cutting off its demonic link to Earth. While the Marine wins the battle, the war between humanity and Hell's forces has yet to end. Blazkowicz knows more than anyone that it never will. With that, we come to the end of the Doom franchise, at least so far. From a group of guys splitting pizza during late-night coding sessions in a dark office, to a universe-spanning saga of vengeance, gods, and demons, Doom has sure come a long way. What began as a simple battle against Hell's forces has evolved into a sprawling mythos of ancient prophecies, interdimensional wars, and the unrelenting fury of the Doom Slayer. Whether ripping and tearing through pixelated sprites or virtual reality, the soul of Doom remains unchanged. It's always fast, brutal, and utterly badass. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. Huge thanks to the subscribers and channel members on screen for supporting the channel, and big thanks to the Doom modding and source port community as well. Various games in this video were captured using community-made mods or ports, namely the Doom 3 source port, that's the only way I can pronounce it, buddy, thanks for all your hard work, and the Lost Mission backport from the Doom 3 BFG remaster. Links to those and others I used are in the description, so you can check them out for yourself. I'd also like to give a huge thanks to longtime friend of the show, Craydon, for all of his help capturing the footage of the classic games for me. Couldn't have made this video without you, buddy. You have way more patience than I do. You're the best. Oh yeah, remember to like the video, comment on what you'd like to see next, and subscribe for more. I'm Suggestive Gaming, and now you're in the know.